I'm not sure how funny I'm going to be tonight. As I'm sure you all know, I like to use chamber debates as a test bed for experimental self-referential humor. And if it's well received, I give the same routine at stand-up comedy gigs across the globe, from Shenzhen to Agbog Bloshi. And if it's not well received, well, it's only a bit of fun, you know. So recently I found out about something on the internet called irony, which is where you say something you don't mean or understand and then fend off embarrassment by saying it was ironic. Good example is what I just did there, and another is what I'm about to do next. Turns out there's a new thing called post-irony, which is where you say something you actually mean and then follow through with it. A good example is Werner Herzog's 2009 film Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, which I haven't seen. So today I'm going to make a serious point and then follow through with it. But how to be serious? Well, for starters, to use words like insidious. Here's an example of something that's insidious. How many times would you guess you'll hear the word brain rot tonight? Or chronically online, or even man-made horrors beyond your comprehension, said with an uneasy laugh that kind of shakes off the tension. How often has any one of us examined our screen time on a given day, felt a moment of unqualified panic, and laughed it off as brain rot, an irony as succulently anesthetic as hot Ribena seeping into a weary endocrine system? Who except the infected points the finger of chronically online? Who except those with cerebral Cotard syndrome call it brain rot? It's not a new phenomenon. It's the same self-reinventing force that brought this but unironically into the vernacular, the very same expressive veil the internet gives people in order for dog whistling to be a thing, but also an attitude that my boy DFW identified 30 years ago in E Unibus Plurum as being the defining trait of television. Stupid ads and reality TV want you to roll your eyes and say, that's stupid. So do genre-definingly not mind-numbing memes. It doesn't matter either way if one watches a video of various different forms of LeBron James as discs racing each other down a complicated track, singing Cotton Eye Joe while a Family Guy clip plays, and considers it to be genuine art and calls it brain rot, or slightly hates oneself for watching it. Both attitude toward watching still drive up TikTok's quote engagement, and they both chip away at your time to the same extent. Now, let me give my operational definition of chipping away at your time. I saw a Vsauce video once a few years ago, irony, really my only source on anything, and he described a study in which were examined two types of activities. One that feels like it takes a long time when you're in the middle of it, but when you look back after it seems as if very little time has passed at all, like office work. This is kind of like type 1 fun. The other is the opposite, basically time flies by and you look back and it seems like it took ages, like a camping trip or something. Television in particular was identified as a unique activity in that it both didn't feel like time was passing when you did it or upon reflection. Social media, we can pretty easily imagine, is an extension of this. The only indicator at all that any time has passed is the usage stats page in my favorite app, Settings. TikTok, it would seem, is the apex. Now, if I weren't committed to the bit of being serious, I might suggest that TikTok should be banned, not because TikTok humor isn't funny, but because it's actually too funny. Of course, this is a facetious way of really saying that TikTok and TikTok-like platforms, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, create an environment humid and damp enough to create what Norm MacDonald has termed the perfect joke, where the setup has become the punchline. The circular monomythical narrative has been shrunk down to an infinitesimal point, the most trivial of its homotopical equivalence class, which is fine for the odd joke. Saying words that end in ER enough people automatically think, I hardly know her, is in the blessed equivalence class of your mum jokes. And it can be funny as one of the spices of life, but consider eating a mountain of spice for 10 hours a day, and then consider that it isn't just jokes. It's world news from primary and secondary sources, specialized meme pages with infotainment about every hobby, from music to velocity to sport to Minecraft. It's clips of people doing kind of ridiculously horrible things for clout. But it's also friends, the people we are and aren't so much in love with, also a communication medium, also for many a primary communication medium, also for many a primary one-way communication medium, whose channels are implicitly determined by a third party whose only real motive is profit and who know about how addiction works and why it should work. What I mean to say is that it comprises for many of us almost the sum total of our passive sedentary activities and subsumes all others, private and public, which would be fine if it were merely a convenient way to have everything in one place, but it isn't. Well, why? Does anyone find the word content eerie? Even content creator? Does no one remember that this just suddenly changed from YouTube slang to a phrase used by your uncle at Christmas in 2017? Does it not sanctify the medium itself and relegate art, news, hard Ronald Reagan edits, and film analysis to being merely the stuff that you throw into the bottomless pit of engagement. Does that image not also evoke the pretty intuitive idea that most of the news is subheadline length, that most of the infotainment is not what you might call nuanced, that every hobby is reduced to cool, quick tips and tricks? I'm not talking about the greatest of all TikTok buzz terms, attention span. It's much more limiting than removing the ability to simply concentrate. It's a quick and dirty way to hold us into subnetwork upon subnetwork of stuff we already kind of know and or have kind of already laughed at, because it's fiscally safe and fast, and from moment to moment, something very close to fun. It's a drug that is designed to predict our next thought before we even have to take it. If that thought is, I think this app is bad for me and I should stop using it, it's easy to pacify that with an ironic brain rot meme. I think most people probably understand this, is the thing. If I've sounded preachy, that's a polemic failure on my part, and I know that I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but these are thoughts that are very easy to forget when the machine in question can touch every corner of our minds, and just when we think we've found a healthy way to interact with it, it reinvents itself to hook back in again. To allow something to exist which is intentionally addictive, and whose vectors of addiction are not only short-term dopamine cycles, but also our interpersonal relationships, our need to be liked, and our desire to be informed, it's lethal, unironically.
Wow. I'd like to think. Right. So when I first got this email about the topic of this debate, I was really caught off guard. I had never even imagined life without TikTok, so that was my first step. What would life look like without TikTok? Scary thought, yes, but I urge you to join me on this exploration of the mind. Let us cast our minds back to 2020, when TikTok became mainstream, and lest we forget at the same time, our nation was plagued by COVID-19. Coincidence? I think not. The speed at which information traveled on this exciting new app, TikTok, allowed me to speed to my local supermarket and fight off my elderly neighbour, Margaret, for the last pack of Cushell, because I was told by TikTok that this lockdown would be akin to a zombie apocalypse. Without the mass hysteria generated by this platform, I would not have had the comfort of knowing that although this deadly virus was wiping out a nation, I would never have to worry about wiping my arse again, because I had 73 packets of toilet paper in the back of my mum's Range Rover. Secondly, although we were not allowed to leave our houses, we were still expected to continue our third-level education online. I myself was studying global business at Trinity at this time, which, as you know, is a prerequisite to becoming a comedian. No, I'm serious. Global business is actually the course you study when you know one of your dad's friends is going to give you a job, but you have to have at least one thing on your CV. In 2020, I was taking my quantitative methods for research and financial accounting part 2 exams during the first lockdown. Shut the fuck up. Both of which would not have been possible without coffee getting me through the nights. Before the pandemic, I had never made a drink at home myself. I had solely survived on oat flat whites from Butler's on Dawson Street, which I would subsequently spill down my crotch after trying to hide it from the library security guard hiding under my coat. You've all done it. Nevertheless, my point is, when lockdown came, my first thought, well, actually my second thought after winding Margaret in Dunstore's Rapt Minds was, holy shit, I won't be able to get my oat flat whites anymore. And in my hour of darkness, who came to me? Not Mother Mary, but user 726491. Was Dalgona whipped coffee. Without those coffees, I truly believe I wouldn't have made it through quantitative methods for research and financial accounting part 2. And now I'm secure in the fact that if comedy doesn't work out, I would always have the option to live an extremely fulfilling life doing tax at KPMG. Thank KPM Jesus. In the same vein, I have never cooked a meal at home in my life. I ate exclusively from Carluccio's or honey truffle at the back of the business school. So naturally, I was terrified when these establishments closed up shop for the pandemic. If it wasn't for food TikToker Jenny Hirvonen of Finland, I never would have discovered the creamy delight that is feta pasta. And I probably wouldn't have eaten a single meal in lockdown. Jenny saved my life. As we know, the pandemic was a dark time for many, and TikTok was a source of joy, a place where one could journey to find instant gratification and dopamine hits, where you could sit for hours and watch Nick Avocado slurp up buckets of noodles, or Bella Porsche lip syncing M to the B, M to the B, it's M to the B, it's fine, for hours. TikTok allows us to see these artists of today in real time, Where once people could say, I live to see Pablo Picasso paint, I can say, I live to see Addison Rae throw it back and bust down. Where once people lived to see Michelangelo sculpting the statue of David, I live to see the Hype House. Hashtag inspiring. TikTok is the primary source of news for the majority of Gen Z. The 6 o'clock show is just too scary for us, and the newspaper is too understimulating. So Gen Z flock to their FYP for informative videos. Without TikTok, Gen Z wouldn't be informed about politics, economics, and current affairs. TikTok allows people to collect facts and information and decide on their personal political beliefs, such as who of the Mormon wives was a swinger, and the reason Tommy Fury was kicked out of Molly May's house. TikTok is providing young people with career opportunities that didn't even exist a year ago, where once we had great philosophers such as Aristotle, now we have Hawk to a girl. Where once we had brilliant physicists, Marie Curie, we now have very demure, very cutesy girl. If we keep going in this direction soon, we won't even need to attend college and university degrees will become futile. I speak from experience. I worked my ass off to achieve a first-class honours in global business so that I could tell jokes about tampons on stage. Thousands of tickets to my comedy show sold out in under 1 minute on Ticketmaster, and I'm not even that funny. Some call it terrifying, I call it TikTok. This is a rather personal anecdote, but a powerful one to end my argument on. Right before the pandemic, I was broken up with my someone say what the fuck is up everyone's ass? My first boyfriend, my first love, I thought, dumped me on the bench outside the Van Boland Library. Congratulations on the renaming. Yeah, fucker. Wait, about the library? Well, okay. Shut up. Okay. I was devastated. He dumped me for a much skinnier, much younger, beautiful blonde girl. Don't feel sorry for me though, and I tell stories about him on stage for money. But at the same time, I felt like it was the end of the world. I tried everything to get him back. I tried dyeing my hair. I tried losing weight. I tried kissing other boys in front of him at the best ball. Nothing worked. Until one day, I saw that TikToker Charlie D'Amelio had posted something called the Renegade Dance. Famously the sexiest dance known to man, and a sure way to win back an ex. Thanks to the speed at which TikTok works, my FYP was soon flooded with dance tutorials. I locked myself in my room, and within an hour, I was dabbing and wooing and hitting the nay-nay on TikTok to 250 lucky viewers. And sure enough, 20 minutes after, I posted, my ex DM'd me telling me he missed me and my renegade was driving him crazy and could I please come over? Did I go over to his? No. I was too busy doing the renegade, ha, 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 because I had the last fucking laugh. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Esteemed guests. My name is James Ryan, and I do have the quite difficult task of proposing the motion that this House would ban TikTok. I do this for a variety of reasons. Mainly, that is the main thing standing between me and doing anything at all ever. But in fact, during the writing of this speech, actually, I watched a 20-part clip of an episode of House MD on 2x speed. And it also had like a Family Guy funny moments underneath it as well. It was pretty good. So I realized, though, that talking about TikTok does mean that, I'm going to have to touch on some fairly, difficult, serious topics like attention spans, as you were saying, data protection as well. So I did bring a little something for you all in case I got boring. So instead, I just have a clip of Subway Surfers, if you want to see. So I have that here. Unfortunately, the Trinity Wi-Fi is run with a rabbit on a wheel, so you're going to have a bit of buffering for now. But I do hope that the sweet nectar that you have here is going to be able to keep you going as far as we go. But actually, I'm going to begin this speech with, like my therapy sessions, a little thing about my father. My dad, he's an American man born in Connecticut. He's a child of the 1960s, right? Okay, so he sends texts like letters. He ends them with regards, your biological father. He wears jeans and a nice button-up shirt with everything. He thinks that, CBT only means cognitive behavioral therapy. Little do they know about cock and ball torture. But he has absorbed some of TikTok's brain rot somehow. So I want to tell you a little story about my life. I think we're all locked in, are we? I can put this away? Okay, great. I'm really privileged you're all paying attention to me right now. So one day I was, hard at work down the mines. Not the mines, I worked as a tour guide in this university. But
I'd had a hard, exhausting day at work. I was talking to American people for longer than I wanted to. And it was also 25 degrees outside, so I was practically noticed the entire day. So I say to my dad, I'm like, Dad, I was just absolutely shattered out there. You know, me and John did all we could, nothing. And he goes to me, and I quote, I guess you just have L-Riz. And then the worst thing is, that wasn't it. He also did the little hand thing. And so if you're telling me that my 60-year-old father is able to take this in, how is it doing for the rest of us? And an even worse thing can happen. I was once at a family dinner with my mother, my dad, my brother. He'd flown in from London for it. It was a big occasion, right? And there's a lull in conversation. That's normally when like your parents tell your relatives you go to Trinity or something like that. But in this lull of conversation, my mother says to me, James, I've got a text from a woman in my book club. What does gooning mean? And dear reader, Google is free. But the reaction of my parents was priceless as I began to tell them everything about this. And so I think we can all agree here, really, that TikTok is a veritable factory of strange and increasingly freaky slang that will continue to confound polite society for as long as we quote, we stay demure, mindful, innovation-coded, mama, a new word behind you, etymology core vocab maxing. I'm sorry for subjecting you to that. But it's my bigger point here is what I'm trying to get at. Our brains are being rotten right to the core. From all the things passed down, from all the brain rot here before. Much like a Russian doll, or an onion, or an ogre, perhaps, our slang is now layers deep and practically impenetrable from even the most chronically online among us. And that was not a quote that last week, that wasn't a reference, but some of you thought about it. But our attention spans have been quite reduced by this infernal app that we're using at the moment. Sorry, I'm just checking on Mudang and Pesto right now. And Hua Hua as well. Nobody knows Hua Hua. It's like a small panda in Chengdong Panda Bay. Sorry, someone does. He is by far the best out of all of them, in my opinion. He looks a bit like a little rice ball. Sorry, again, we've realized how destroyed we've all become with that bit there. But while I was writing this, I kept stopping to look outside the library window. I watched the day in the life of a corporate weapon. I got info from the coastal grandpa Gorpcore fit. This is true. I watched a Reddit anti-asshole about a woman who married an obvious racist. I then got surprised when he started feuding with their foreign neighbors. I was like, well, if the writing was on the wall, you really should have gotten out of there. But there was like a little Minecraft parkour thing. It was all fine. My little brain was fine. What it means is every like 30-second clip that we swipe on, or every niche show clips with a song underneath it as well. Every AI cover of glimpse of us with Trump and Biden singing each part of it. But actually, there's a really good one. It was a cover of Remember Me from Coco, but it was Trump and Biden. It was actually really cute. But regardless, it's another trip to my already fraying ability to focus on anything at all. So it's kind of destroying me. I can't even think for myself either anyway. When someone asked me for the best film performance of all time, why did my first thought immediately go to, I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy! Or, every day I wake up and I hope you're dead! Or, there's a new one on the park right now. It's I want you to plow the riches of my Emersonian mind. That one's from Megalopolis. Go see that. It's pretty good. But it's either that or it's like 15 trillion clips of Patrick Bateman for some reason. Maybe that's my For You page. But regardless, sorry, don't look into that. I don't just look. But anyway, TikTok is incredibly good at parceling us off into these like smaller and smaller niches. And the way I found out about this was I asked my TikTok addicted friend whether they knew about like Big Justice, AJ, and the Rizzler. And they looked at me like I just asked an SMS person what inflation meant. They were like, like I described fire to a caveman. They were utterly confused. But through this endless swiping, we do go down these kind of increasingly dangerous rabbit holes, right? So this is going to be a little serious part. A huge amount of like online hate speech is being done by teenagers now. I think a part of that is because of TikTok bringing people down these sort of continuous rabbit holes. You can like a couple of politics posts or a few posts about current affairs, and then suddenly you're seeing these posts praising like racism or justifying genocide and stuff like that. It's crazy how fast it works. And so these algorithms are kind of controlling us, and it's also bringing people to become even more radicalized. It's kind of like how before social media, everybody thought they were stupid. Or everybody thought the Holy Land was in America, lived in Utah. And so when you kind of connect them all together at the click of a button, they all wrongly think that they're not idiots. And they all begin to, hold conferences for each other. There was even that TikTok live where they had like a laser pointer to prove the Earth was flat, and it accidentally pointed the Earth was actually round, which is not pretty good. But that was a rare victory, right? But you can kind of start with updates on like that Florida man in the boat for Hurricane Milton, and you suddenly become down a road that leads to you thinking the birds are run by the bourgeoisie. So it does kind of go very, very quickly. But finally, I did want to end on something we can all agree on. If we didn't propose this motion, you would never have to see me doing this again. Yeah, wait a second.
Send in the face this side up. Here. Good evening, all ladies, gentlemen, members of the Flowsack. My name is Sophie, and I'm so excited to be speaking here in James Smith in space with my peers and my icons, Rachel, Isaac, and James, my Flowsack boss. I'm looking at you. Okay, enough flats and trees. Let's get down to business. Today, I stand before you all opposing the motion, this house to ban TikTok. As an expert on the topic, with several credible references facts up, being my screen time hours and my mother, let me tell you why this house should not, in fact, ban TikTok. But if anything, should be scrolling on TikTok right now. To ban not only a worldwide institution, but a way of life is simply a preposterous proposition. It's selfish, if anything. Think of the influences. We all have to stay 24 hours in a day at beyond the after all. That's something. I think. But I think the most persuasive otherwise. Yes, it's TikTok. So responsible for my insomnia? Probably. Do I spend too much time on it? Definitely. Did I watch the entire Bill Hunting video on it? And also, yes. But should it be banned? Absolutely not. Such a treacherous proposition downright appalls me. You may be wondering, what is this girl's authority to speak on such a life or death matter? Wonder no more. I'll tell you. I am a TikTok veteran, and I felt like I had gone watching it arise in the ashes of basically and transformed it into the beautiful phoenix it is today. So that is a Harry Potter reference. And I remember the days, shock horror, when I watched with my own eyes as musically morphed into what it is today, the global phenomenon TikTok. And why is this to me? The Chinese government has succeeded in brainwashing. Joking, wait, while you said that, I just love the app. This is an addiction that I don't want to fight. Travel, expo, cinema, fun, recipes, and autumnal coffee orders. Honestly, there's no place I'd rather be. Suffice it to say, TikTok is soothing my notices, and so I owe my life. Let me begin by asking each of the can you even imagine a world without TikTok? A world without mindless scrolling accessible to all of us at any given moment? What would we do with our days? Socialize as all the humans have before us and use our time more productively. Maybe spend some more time outside and interact with one another. I dread to think. I'm sorry to be distracted that. Please, let's keep going. Don't be alarmed when you see me in the night, so it's a driver. Rest assured, I am on TikTok. I will take a more serious approach. This is a personal plea. For my sanity, we must not ban TikTok. Know that you side with the proposition on the debate, you are personally attacking me and my general well-being. It's a common occurrence that look of disgust when your former friend announces, I'd leave TikTok. We know you think you're better than us. Don't worry. Think of these pathetic, unproductive TikTok users don't know what life's like on the other side. Tonight, I'll be explaining just why the lives of TikTok users are, in fact, better. Why TikTok is important. But it's supposed to be familiar with the old saying, money makes the world go round. But I tell people to Smith right now. This old wives' tale is in fact wrong. Money does not make the world go round, TikTok does. TikTok is, as it stands, the primary source of media and communication in the entire world. I don't need statistics to explain. Just sat in this room here to say, how many of you have TikTok downloaded? That's what I thought, guys. So, not only is TikTok a vital source of current affairs, but it also gives platforms things that really matter. Current Beyonce news. If you don't know about these memes, get to know. So next, I just want to touch on briefly the superiority complex of minorities who still have not been looking. Instagram Reels. You are no better than us TikTokers. We're just honest with ourselves. It's always the avid Reels users that are bragging about not having TikTok, when in reality, they will always be 3 months behind any given conversation. They'll come up to you out of nowhere and be like, oh my God, yeah, did you see that one trend? Yes, I did. A year ago. Get a life. Weird. TikTok is the ultimate supplier of up-to-date current affairs. If we didn't have this consistently reliable source, where would we get the real news stories? How would we possibly know about, say, climate disasters like Hurricane Milton and Lieutenant Dan, ongoing world wars, and of course, Beyonce being behind the deaths of several rappers? We all thought you were better than this, but TikTok unpacked the truth about the infamous Kanye Taylor Swift origin story. So now we can all recognize that Kanye was saving Taylor Swift Beyonce all along. Who would have known? Trustworthy and reliable old TikTok they knew. Despite a knowing voice at the back of my head, keenly reminded me of those clips or nonsense. Can anyone explain why it goes since 15 seconds with my life? I don't know why. There's probably a TikTok. Who has time for replays? Idiot. TikTok being consuming media and power that it is has single-handed fulfilled back at their full process. And if a video lasts for more than 5 seconds of time, keep on scrolling and it's not happening. But thanks to TikTok, I can get all the info I could possibly need in these brilliantly short and concise time frames. A win-win situation if you ask me. Although I may have never had the original fault, you know what? I'm happy. I can mindlessly follow along this mass media consumption, what some may call mind control to an extent, and be subconsciously influenced towards us. What an efficient use of my time. The time I could be researching the latest fashion do's and don'ts, I can now spend procrastinating my laundry. So thoughtful of the reading. I myself have not evaded the cherry red nails scratch over. But look around the bags. Don't they all look bad? More importantly, without TikTok, we would not have Rachel Galvo, the savvy with, let's say, and her lovely dark red nails. And what a travesty this would be. To wrap it up, it is free. It has created girl maths of boosted economies. It's an advanced form of mathematical calculation that has in recent times been studied to derive from the female brain. Apologies for that awfully scientific explanation. Let me explain to you the cryptocurrency supreme to Bitcoin that TikTok implemented. New clothes, justified. Sweet treats, justified always. Impulsive purchase, grown. It's revolutionary. I'm going to address the elephant in the room, China. Yeah, they are gathering all of our information. So what? So what? Who cares? I don't care. They're going to discover that I'm researching EU dark brown foods, past family, and that I am researching French thoughts, and that I sent my boyfriend memes calling him poopy, so what? And that's definitely more incriminating than anything they're going to find. So, in conclusion, TikTok should not be banned. Am I right or am I chronically online? That is for you to decide. But to conclude, I urge each one of you to stop lying to yourselves and pretending that you can live without TikTok. We all know that you can't. On that note, I encourage you to develop self-awareness and side with the opposition. This house is not by TikTok. Thank you. Right. What is the case decide?
Well, thank you all very much. Thank you all. It's a great thrill to be back here at Trinity's oldest and largest, of course, society, the Phil. And my thanks first of all go to the secretary, who's on here with us, I believe, but whoever Liam is. Thank you for having me back here in the chamber. Congratulations to you, Madam President, on the first month of the Phil. Super organized, super productive. But the first month, yes, that's it. If the first few weeks are anything to go by, I think we can all look forward to an exceptional year here. It's hard to believe it's about a year now since I was acting as registrar, tormenting you all with abysmal jokes. Good to see not much has changed in this building. I'm only joking. But it's been a while. The last time I was here,
as registrar, I was wittering on about some nonsense. I made an absolutely terrible joke about the pretend I didn't know folk cuffs or something like really like unfunny. I completely forgot about it, but our librarian, for some reason, decided to clip this and put it on social media. On the little brother of TikTok with equally insidious Instagram reels, and for whatever reason, I don't know, for whatever reason, it blew up and got something like 300,000 views or something insane. And someone came running to tell me this, and I was in shock. I thought, oh my God, this is your 5 minutes of fame. And then I decided, oh, let me see what comments say. To discover, to my chagrin, that the most liked comment simply said, just three words, what a knob. So, just kidding, yeah. Pocket of black, but I'm really joking. But here I am. Let's see if I can try to be a little more likable tonight. Perhaps not. I was at the HIS last week. I was arguing against artificial intelligence, and I made the same admission to them I'll make again today. Namely, I'm absolutely technologically illiterate. I don't really have social media. I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook, I don't have Twitter. I think I'm just about 3,000 points on Snapchat the last time I checked. That's 7 years of use. Apparently that's not much. I had TikTok for about 2 months a number of years ago. And the reason I got rid of it, really enough, was because it was so good. What scared me about TikTok was just how funny it was, just how many hours I was wasting on it. And I noticed that the longer I seemed to spend on TikTok, or indeed any other such insidious application, the more angry I was, the more isolated I was, the more insecure I was. And then conversely, the moment I got rid of it, suddenly I was like a new man again. I actually went back to a block, and suddenly I was much happier, much more, secure in myself, etc. And this is, of course, absolutely no coincidence. I don't think we realize just quite how badly things have gone. We're like frogs in a pot of boiling water. The temperature has been rising. We've all lived in a world with social media. We don't really know much else. This to us is normal, but it really shouldn't be, because the world in which we live today, where we're all so addicted to TikTok and to these, social media corporations, is not natural. It's not right. Spending hours a day wasting our time. I'm not trying to moralize here. I do the same. Wasting our time. It's not good. It's really not good. And I'd like to explain why, as the last speaker on the proposition. I think we have about 2 things to prove to you, okay? And if we can prove these 2 things, you're all going to have to vote with us with the proposition when it comes time to vote again. Number 1, TikTok is an insidious application. It's corrosive, it's dangerous, it's destructive, it's basically a negative thing, and it presents a major problem for our society. It shouldn't be too hard. The second thing we then have to do is to prove to you that the best way to deal with this problem is to ban it. So that's a drastic thing to do, okay? We've heard it's a preposterous thing to do. I completely disagree. So why TikTok, all right? We all raise our hands. A lot of us have it. It is the most used social media app in the world at the moment. About 60%, according to the Pew Research I read today, 60% of Americans use it. It's 60% of young people, that is. 20% use it compulsively. They use it all day, okay? But 40% of young people in America get their news from TikTok. This is deeply, deeply concerning. The algorithm, and this is not an exaggeration, the algorithm of TikTok knows you better than you know yourself, okay? The aims and the methods of TikTok are absolutely inimical to our well-being. Their goal with surveillance capitalism is to get us hooked on this app, make us waste hours of a day, hour after hour, no matter if you want to or not. They'll hook you in and you'll waste your time, which the more time you spend on it, the more money they make off advertisements. And of course, the best way to engage you is not to make you happy or peaceful or calm, okay? The best way they engage you is by making you angry and fearful, okay? This is how it works, and that's why we always feel so terrible about ourselves when we're on it. And this is not to say, as I'm sure we've already heard some references here from the opposition, that there aren't good things about TikTok. Of course they are, all right? But a lot of these good things about TikTok already existed in the world before. We've heard quite a lot that TikTok is how we get our news. Well, of course, we already have the news before TikTok. You don't buy a newspaper. It would have been a better quality. 2/3 of all newspaper jobs, by the way, in the US have absolutely vanished since 2005. Social media has killed the newspaper industry. We're no longer paying journalists to go out, get factual information, bring it back to us. You don't sit down and read a long-form article, read it, reflect on it, see the nuanced points of views, and arrive at our own opinions. We just scroll, and we're not engaging. We're not really engaging with the news. Thank you. Don't know who that was, but it's true. So, how does it impact us individually? I think the most insidious way TikTok impacts us is destroys our attention spans. If you want to learn more about this, there's an excellent book by Johann Hari. It's called Stolen Focus. I just finished it recently. I'd highly recommend it. He goes into the science of all this, just how it destroys our attention spans. You don't need to get into the science. It's pretty self-evident, is it? If you're just, oh Lord, that's time. But if you're flicking through reel after reel after reel after reel, you're not ingesting the information, are you? And then how on earth are you going to expect you to sit still and to focus on something if you've been ingesting quick form content hour after hour? It makes us more isolated, not just physically, because we're not going out, experiencing the world anymore in the way we did. It makes us more isolated because the algorithm feeds us individual views curated to what we might like. We're no longer being exposed to views with which we might disagree. We're no longer seeing things which we wouldn't have seen before. We're just seeing things that the algorithm knows we'll like. This is radicalizing young people in particular. And how does it affect us as a society? Because, of course, we do live in a society. It's a pretty profound statement. I'll give you some time to take that down. But as Johann Hari explains, try to take 1 minute more. Will that be cheeky, Ben? Thank you. Okay. Last time I stole the bell, so I've matured a lot. I'm going to ask for some more time. But the medium is the message, okay? With the with the longer form content, I didn't hear that. With news, sit down to watch the 9 o'clock news, listen to the radio, read a novel. We're sitting with a novel for weeks, okay? We're living with these characters for a long amount of time. We're experiencing the world from their point of view. We're becoming more empathic. We can hold different things to be true at the same time. When that's the long-form content we're reading and ingesting, we're going to interpret the world in a more long-form way, okay? We can think about things for longer in a more nuanced and complex kind of way. When we're engaging with news and with media, etc., in a short-form way, which is what TikTok does, it's only natural that we're then going to ingest information and to see the world in a way, like in a short-form way. Our brains have been fried, they've been scrambled. Instead of thinking longer and more deeply about things, it's go, 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 go. So how does this affect society? How can we expect to solve climate change if we can't even sit in a room for an hour and listen to what the professor is telling us? As I sometimes I can't feel the way I could have done. Jeez. And I'm sure we can all, agree, we've experienced that ourselves. Look at, for instance, populism. Populism is perfectly suited to a generation like ours who can't really think long about complicated, nuanced topics. Because if they're selling us very simple solutions to very complicated problems, that's perfect for us if we can't think about long, complicated problems, okay? And that's why Alternative for Deutschland are polling 30%. So the final question, I'll hurry through this. I don't want to bore you too much, and I know we often create jokes, and here comes, Cassandra, the prophet of doom and gloom, with you all. Why do we need to ban it? It's not preposterous. This thing didn't exist a number of years ago. Okay, we can very much do without it. And social media companies, they're trying to offload the response. You know what? You're dead right. I'll hurry up. Okay. Put it this way. Let's just put it this way. I have a few more things to say. I won't indulge myself. All right. One final thought, okay? If the opposition said they were in some sort of lab here, okay, for 2 years, and they'd come up with this great new idea, okay, it's a new app, right? What we're going to do is we're going to feed everyone, billions of users around the world. We're going to feed children, teenagers. We're going to get them hooked onto this application. We're going to give them short-form content, okay? And we'll go from news to something happy, to something sad, to something terrible, to something happy again, okay? And the algorithm's going to know them better than they know themselves. They're not going to be able to get off. They're going to waste hours on it. It's going to make them more angry, more divided, more isolated, and more upset with themselves. And everyone's going to be... Would a single person in this room say, yeah, go for it. Let's roll that out. I rest my case, vote, proposition. Thank you very much for that.
I'd like to thank John for his face and Steve. All I have to say, I just, you're here.
Don't take away my job! Don't take away my job! Don't ban TikTok! Don't ban TikTok! Don't take away my living! I make money from this! I make money from TikTok! Don't take away TikTok from me!
Thank you for that. Sorry, I flew all the way over here. I had to make a TikTok, you know what I mean? Like, I understand my argument is going to be quite biased because, this is my job. Making TikToks is what I do for a living, technically. That's what I tell the tax man, I'm not letting anyone know about my side hustle, you know. I don't sell drugs. I'm just joking. Okay, cool. So basically, I don't think TikTok should be banned. Obviously, I don't think it should. I think it would. We were always, as humans, we were always going to make something like this. Like, we got bored in the Stone Age. You know, have you seen those shitty little cake paintings they made? Like, what is that, by the way, that bell? What does that mean? I keep thinking like my latte's ready or something. Like, I don't know what's going on. I've just been drinking wine, like I'm just slightly tipsy. I just keep hearing bells happen. I'm like, what's going on? What is this? But you know, like we've always been bored, humans, and we've always been curious, and we've always invented things. I'm not saying that TikTok is like 100% an ethical thing. I don't think it is. I think it's not ethical at all, you know, in some ways, you know, but it isn't. But also, I've become an entertainer from that, you know, whether you don't find me funny or not, like I'm a comedian, you know, like, and that's what I have ended up doing. And I started doing comedy when I was 16 years old, which was like 4 years before I even started TikTok. I had this like dream to do stand-up. And I started doing it in the little town that I was in. I started doing it in Norwich, Cambridgeshire, and like other little counties around the area of England that I'm from. And then, like, you know, eventually lockdown happened. And when lockdown happened, I didn't have anything to do. I lost my job and I was on benefits. And I didn't want to go and work in the Amazon factory, you know? I didn't want to do that. I know I sound spoiled, but I didn't want to fucking do that. Like, I'm sorry, okay? All right, call me fucking privileged or whatever. I didn't want to fucking do that shit. I saw that in COVID, like working class jobs, they became even more factory-like. And I'd already worked in a factory. And a lot of people in my family do. Pretty much most of my family members all work in factories. My brother works in a book factory. My dad worked in a bleach factory before becoming a drug dealer. And my mum is a security guard at a factory. She does 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. 4 days a week at a car part factory. My uncle works, and this I feel like I'm bragging about how working class I am in this clearly upper class university. Finally, I can do it. But he worked in like a pallet factory making wooden pallets and stuff like that, you know. And I grew up around that a lot as a kid, and you know, I grew up very poor and in poverty. You know, once in school, we couldn't afford school shoes. I had holes in my shoes. I couldn't wear them anymore. We couldn't afford the 20 quid school shoes at Shoe Zone. So I had to wear my nan's shoes to school. All right, and she has like fucking like diabetes or something, so her feet like swell up. So like my nan had like the biggest shoes in the family, and I don't know why they gave them to me. It was like, right now I'm just trauma dumping. But it was crazy, you know, and like that's why I love TikTok so much, because when that happened, it gave me an opportunity to actually be somewhat in the entertainment industry, you know, in an industry that is so filled with nepotism and people that sort of do get jobs because their family are involved. I'm not saying that isn't the case. Some people really do work hard without TikTok. And believe me, that's a harder fucking thing to do than what I've done, you know? But that is something that they've done, you know? And yeah. So I lost my train of thought. I don't know if I have ADHD or not. I don't know, or I'm just... They say imagine the crowd like naked when you lose track. Well, I'm just going to imagine my girlfriend naked. But I've got a bone! Oh, come on! Shame! It's cool though, you know. But like, I'm so like, you know. So I go back, you know. I found it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, as a kid, you know, I was malnourished, you know. Like, I didn't eat that much as a kid, you know. I grew up poor, you know. I did grow up poor, and it's great to be able to do this. And I just don't think it should be banned, because TikTok and other social media platforms have broken down the class barrier that it takes to be successful in certain industries, you know? Not even just as someone who's in front of the camera, making stuff and making content, even people who are filming the content, you know? And then they can go into production. I know so many people that started filming TikToks. They got a camera because they made their money with their friend filming TikToks together. Then they bought a camera, and now they're talking to TV production companies, and they're getting a job that way. And I think that's something that's really nice, and it's unconventional. And we're sort of living in like a new sort of renaissance or I think that's how you say that word. We're sort of living in a new sort of like, we're living in a really creative time right now. But I think historians will look back at this time and go, this is a time when people of the poorest could have an idea and they could make something and people could relate to it, And I think that's just something that's really, really cool. And not only that is my uncle who worked in the pallet factory. I'm not going to say his username, but he has like 100,000 TikTok followers now, just doing what he likes doing. And he's like in his 50s. He's got like fucking heart disease, and like now he's making like $1,000 a month, which was more than he was making at that factory. He's making like that just from making videos because of what I did. And at first I felt so much shame because I go back home and I'm fucking making money and shit. I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty sick. But I go back home and obviously, it's still the same way that I left it. Like a lot of my friends are struggling, a lot of my friends are in drug dealing, or some are in prison. Some are working jobs that they don't like. I'm not saying that these jobs that are like working class jobs are bad to work. Like I know so many people that are content working those jobs, but I just think there's something very important about it. And yeah, it's sick that I'm here. Like, I didn't go to uni, but like, I got invited to this. And not only I thought a debate would be cool, just seeing what uni is like, it's cool. And I've realized this is like a weird fucking uni. I don't think this is like the uni, like every uni's like this. They have a fucking sword up there. Like that's mental. Like, they were just like passing me the sword like it was like a blunt, It was crazy. You want to go on the sword? Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't write a speech. I went to a cafe today, and I wrote one page on a notebook, and then I just like rung up my nan, and but yeah, I don't think it should be banned. I understand China, like politically. I understand China politically. They've done some very bad things politically, and they're very hard to like tell them to stop doing things. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like they are, I do understand all that kind of stuff, but it's definitely giving people opportunities, and I think that's really sick. And now I'm here because of that. Where before I wasn't even going to go to uni because that wasn't really an option for me, let alone talk in a debate at uni and be in fucking Ireland, which is sick, Like, yeah. So I think I've said everything I kind of wanted to say, but don't ban it. All right. Cheers.